the crypto market is slowly starting to move. From that $1.1 trillion, we are now closing on to $1.2 trillion. And the question remains, right now we are at this resistance, so are we actually going to get rejected to the downside, or are we going to break to the upside? Because if we do break higher, now we have room till $28,000. So to get a better perspective, we have to literally go in and see what's happening in the market. You do get positive news. You have to understand some of these news can stay in the market and bring in new momentum because they have that level of impact. And then you look at the price. The price action shows you are slowly starting to bounce. Right now, the Bitcoin dominance show you it's having a rounded bottom pattern in a continuation level because we are trending to the upside and it can break to the upside. So what's more important? Taking a step back and looking at the same thing. So here, what you're looking at is this highlighted range. So if you're breaking higher from this level, now you have a long way to go. So Bitcoin dominance increasing may not be the best and great thing for a lot of large cap coins, but they are slowly starting to move, which is a positive thing. Because when you are looking at XRP, it kind of shows you, okay, there's a short-term chart, but we now have a possibility of a small break higher, meaning bulls winning over the bears. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. If you remember, this is what the Bitcoin is doing right now. And we talked about this in the last video yesterday. We literally talked about what the market is doing and what you should be keeping an eye on. And right now, that is happening. And I'm really happy because the way the market is behaving, it gave you ability to enter different assets, and some of these are really moving. We had moved into audio, and one thing which you have to keep in mind is that actually was some of profits which actually was moved into a new asset. So the original trade is there, you took the profit, you're moving that profit to another asset. Now that asset is doing this. Now also keep this in mind. I bought a little bit higher because I had to go for the CFA preparations. And I told if you can buy close to 0.25, buy it there. Now, you can literally go on, look at that particular asset, which is audio. And when you are on that time frame, you see the price came back to 0.25. I bought here, 0.28. So if I made 70%, a lot of others would have made 100% or more just with this particular call, because then the price took off and it's a 3x trade. So if you are looking at this, that's 120% if you bought in at the bottom at that support level. Now that's what's happening in the market. There is a lot of different assets which are not the exact large cap coins, but medium to small cap to micro cap. If you see some fundamentals, some news, some movements, they are going to bounce higher along with the Bitcoin dominance, because Bitcoin dominance right now shows us that it is trying to trend higher, and a break at this level will kind of confirm that, okay, Bitcoin is going higher. Right now, focus on this. It's a hourly chart, not the macro view, agreed, but what we are looking at is this exact pattern trying to break to the upside. So when you are here arguing that, okay, yeah, the Bitcoin dominance is going higher, and then you come on to a scale like this looking at a pattern saying, okay, if I have a little bit of pump, I may break this level. Right now, this is what Bitcoin is doing. So if we get a little bit of movement in the market, it is going to be helpful. Now, yeah, we can always zoom in, we can always, check what's happening in the market. And when you're looking at that, I would say like, okay, there is a significant possibility that we may get a bounce. Now, these are ultra short-term chart, which you are actually using to get more noise in the market to understand short-term volatility. Now, if you're a macro guy, you don't really want to do that. What you really want to do is to move on to a longer time horizon, reduce the noise, and try to digest the maximum information. And that looks something like this. So you remove all this and you're like, okay, on a macro, we put in a higher high, we put in a higher low, and now we are still continuing to the upside. The volume here is green. The candle here is green. So that war between the bulls and bears, it's won by the bulls. So it's actually okay for the time being to see this. And then you go on a weekly, and that's where it really gets interesting. We have another day to go for this candle to close. Right now the volume exceeds the previous bears, and the price action kind of erased, which is important, erased last couple of weeks of consolidation, and you are at this level. Now, at the same time, you do have to keep in mind that right now we are observing this 200-day moving average, it's testing that level. So as soon as you break through this, that's a positive signal for the market to say, okay, we are bouncing, we have a lot more room to the upside. Now, if you put that into the right perspective, a lot of other assets are going to follow that. Say, here we are looking at XRP because that's our beloved asset. Fine. But when you're here in the market, you also want to look at which of these assets are becoming an opportunity if you see fundamentals in them, and which of these assets are going to follow the Bitcoin dominance. Now that's different. It may not have the best fundamentals in the world, but you're looking for a trade there. And if that's the case, now you see a lot of these assets bursting through. Some of them starting to move, some of them already moving and doing these big numbers on a regular basis. And if you are actually interested in knowing what that asset looked like, where a breakout is forming, where it is breaking higher, what the target is, now you can look at the Patreon. The link is actually given in the description below, where we share all of these so you get the ability to see real things happening in real life and take benefit of that. You can actually make the best judgment, well-educated judgment based on these opinions I put out. And these are not just the words. I'm using my money. So if I lose, I lose. If I gain, you are going to get that, right? So it's an easy process. But also understand the macro, the market is still here. And this does not actually sound really good. Now, we are sharing positive news on the crypto on the short term, but while looking at the macro, it really does not feel that great. Now, why do I say it's not that great? Because the way you see what's happening in the market is like when the market starts to move higher, some of these guys really don't want the market to go up when they lost a lot of money in FTX. They want to somehow recover that and then let the market go up. So they will FUD until the top. Now, remember when this guy was saying, one place I trust my money was FTX, and we know what happened. The rest is history. So this side of the economy does not look good because the rates have been going higher, higher, and higher. Right now, you are seeing a lot of companies file bankruptcies. Right now, you're literally watching a lot of delinquencies in mortgages, and then you're hitting trigger points in different countries for the mortgages, which does not actually sound good. Now, keeping this in mind, focus if there is an economic collapse, most of the governments may not need a couple of years to come up with a CBDC. They would say, I think this is the right time. The economy is collapsing. We're going to put in the new infrastructure. That's actually huge. Now, when the Digital Pound Foundation give you this idea, I'm like, okay, there are a huge group where Ripple is a part of that. We really don't know what's happening there. And there are information which have been in the news. Now, speculation, news and all are there suggesting Ether can be a platform which they use. But considering the size of the country, the population of the country, and the demand of the country, I really don't think a network like Ether would be suitable. And even if they start using that, if you go buy a coffee and you're paying in cash, it does not create additional friction or fee for that payment. But if you are using a CBDC and it limits you with a lot of friction and new rules, that's not the best thing to see. And that's one of the reasons why I think the market will reject that thought process. And it's always going to be there for sure. Now, once again, we are coming back here, looking at this pattern. We need to break through this to the upside. We need to come back down, retest it. So it would be somewhere just below 24,700 and then a bounce. So right now, what's the market doing? Now, yeah, again, you'll have to go on a short-term chart to look at that. You'd move higher. Now you came back, you're just below that range, and you really don't want to see the price going much lower. You want to see the price bouncing from here. If that happens, it's a positive news. Now, this is ultra short-term charts which we are talking about. So there's going to be a lot of volatility. But what's more important for us is to understand, okay, if these assets are moving, how can you take benefit of that? Now, if you are looking for the large cap coins, say like XRP, like Cardano, like a lot of different assets, they are starting to show some kind of signal. At least the indicators are turning bullish, but we did not actually get a real break higher with a lot of volume, which we have seen in a lot of different assets, right? That really is interesting to get ability for the market to move with huge momentum and show you that there is significant volume coming in. Now look at this. This is not a large cap asset like XRP, but look at the volume. It was increasing as the price was going up. So just to compare that with XRP, you go back into that chart and look like what it looks like. You're kind of stable here, or at least going down in volume. So I'm like, okay, the SEC case is bleeding people and the thought process and the investments on one side because the price is not going up. And we know based on history for XRP, when the market goes up and it starts to burst, that's when people jump on this because there is a huge speculation of $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 valuation for XRP, or even say something close to $1,000. Fine. Now, say you don't believe that and you believe maybe $10. Fine. And when it starts to get momentum, you're like, oh, maybe that guy is right. Let me put more money in there. So that kind of FOMO is going to enter, and usually this happens with XRP. And that's one of the reasons why we see huge and sudden increase in volume for XRP as soon as it starts to break higher. And what happens? Those people who caught the top get stuck there. The price come back down. So that is one of the most important part for XRP being you need to hold on to this asset at the bottom until it moves parabolically. And when it moves parabolic, okay, take some profit. That's going to be the best thing because when you see the volume and the RSI is giving you some signals, take your profit. Now, what do I mean? In every top for XRP, we actually get to see something like this. The price is literally making a higher high. That's really good. But then the volume started dropping. The market is not having the same strength. And the RSI gives you the same perspective. And I'm like, yeah, that's something to keep in mind, which was one of the reasons why we took profit in XRP when we were like 1.91, right? Those who are in the Patreon, those who are in the alerts, they already know what happened back then. Same perspective. You look at the bottom, you get the same idea. The market actually gives you that. Now, you take the same idea here and you're saying like, yes, the market made a double bottom, but the RSI showed like the strength was even higher, which is actually a positive thing. Now, yes, we are holding on to that line, but we did not yet get the momentum to the upside. And I hope that's because this is a short-term resistance line and a long-term resistance line. So one of the biggest area for XRP is this. As soon as you get a break higher, I believe that we may get momentum. FOMO can come back into the market. Now, I can be wrong 100%. We are all human beings. But the thing is, let's see what the market actually does. Right now, yes, the market is volatile. And we are literally observing a lot of assets moving up, some of them slowing down, some of them correcting back down to a support before they bounce higher. Now, here, if you are coming and looking at the market, say one of the primary question is like, okay, I'm in blue chip coins. What does this market look like for me? So if you are saying, okay, I'm in Matic, which is, an interesting project, and you really want to look at like what that project shows you, because that just went up 1000x in the last cycle, right? If you're looking for first couple of wave structures, it's really interesting to see that a project doing this high ROI. So that's 1000x. Now the question is, can the market actually move higher? It already have done 1000x. Even if it does another 5-6x from that all-time highs, that's a 5000x in this market cycle. So being logical, we are literally going on to see like, okay, what does the range look like? What does the pattern suggest you? This is one high, this is another high. So you connect them both, you get a trend line. Great. Now you get this bottom, you extend that, and you kind of get another touch here, which shows like, okay, that is a big range. We really don't know where we are going to bounce to the upside or to the downside. But one thing is for sure, on the short-term horizon, on the short-term pattern, the price did break to the upside. Now we are forming a similar resistance trend line. So if you break this range, that's actually an interesting point. You now have room to go all the way up here. That is going to be, I believe, an interesting take profit range for this asset in this cycle as it goes beyond all-time highs. That's a price discovery. So that's a large cap asset showing you that I'm moving higher, I'm getting momentum, I'm getting volume. It's actually positive, right? This is actually important. Now, you go on a weekly chart, you remove all this, and you can easily understand what is happening in the market. This is one of the main reason I always say, guys, look at the long-term chart before you make a judgment. Because it's your money, it's a hard-earned money which you are looking to invest. So once you get the confirmation that it's breaking higher through this range, it does make a lot of sense, at least for my eyes, saying this was a reaccumulation phase. You bounced, you reaccumulated, then the market is going back up. It kind of at least doesn't feel like a distribution for me after getting a pump like this and breaking back to the upside. Now, a lot of crypto assets are looking like this. You go into various different assets, look at what's happening in those assets, and you kind of get that same understanding like, okay, assets are moving higher. This is a long-term chart, right? It's a weekly chart looking at the price action, the pattern. You can look at anything based on your expertise. But what we are looking at right now is a pattern which broke to the upside. Fine. Now we go on a daily chart. Look at the volume, the increase in volume, meaning the market did join the party. So you broke higher, you retested, and the volume came in. So that kind of confirmed that breakout. Now, from that point, you've already doubled, right? The price already doubled from that point. And the market is still, in a way, having doubts and concerns whether Bitcoin is going to drop again. Now, if we go back to 20,000, 21,000, that's not a range where you should be concerned, because that's again coming back to this level of support, which may not be bad. But right now, Bitcoin is trying to make this a base. 22,500 to 23,000 is going to be a critical support. And if we manage to bounce higher with increasing volume like this, it is going to be really interesting, because on a weekly, this is what we just talked about. So when we are going to look at the market next week, it's going to be really interesting, because if you watch this segment going higher, now that means you actually watch a weekly chart erasing all these time zones. That's actually really interesting. Now, there are few assets which are doing that right now. They had a massive long range of short-term volatility on a weekly, and they are breaking to the upside right now. We are in those trades. Now, we are being patient because that's a weekly chart which we are looking at, and the ROI is much higher. So even if you are green, so we have some of the trade, like, we are already 50-60% up, but we are not closing because the targets are much higher and we are in leverage trade. So this gives the ability to hold on, because anyway, you're in profit and your liquidation point is way lower. The market is trending higher. That is one of the reasons why I'm like, okay, this market movement, maybe next 3 months, maybe next 5 months, is going to create a lot of opportunities, and there will be points we'll have to reanalyze. Yes, when the market reaches this range, testing $30,000-$35,000, we'll have to see whether the volume supports a further movement to the upside. We need to reanalyze whether we are going to consolidate there and drop back to 25, because at that time, even if it's bullish market trending higher, altcoins may get crushed. So it's important for you to know your targets and to take profit. And that's why I say, if you want to get these kind of updates on a regular basis, you can look at the Patreon. So guys, if you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button. And if you have another 5 minutes more, please do visit this channel of mine and watch a couple of videos there. And if you feel that's interesting, please do let me know. And if you think there is a lot of improvements to be made, which I think can be possible 100%, do let me know. I'll try my best on that. So guys, that's it for today. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.